Hey guys, John Jr. here, bringing you guys another Pokemon Draft analysis. Today I am happy to announce that I am finally back to Wi-Fi Draft League. Obviously, as you can see, I'm back in my old house, not that apartment, so even if land timer was a thing, I would be able to play. However, I got some bad news. Land timer is not a thing, so in this draft league we have 20 minutes total in our matches to do battles, which has definitely been a problem so far, but more on that as time goes on. With that being said though, I am here in BBR ready for my first Gen 9 Wi-Fi League, and this is ran by Grandmaster D-Ray and Kirby. Shout out to both of them, both really good friends. You can check out all of the coaches down below. Be sure to check out all of their draft perspectives, and I appreciate each and every single one of you for checking out this video. With that being said though, let's go ahead and set the stage for this draft. There are two draft pools because in Paldea decks, there's not that many Pokemon. Because of that, we had to split into two draft pools. That way there were enough Pokemon to make some coherent teams. In this, I got the second overall pick behind Liv. So my two choices for this pick were always going to be between both Roaring Moon and Flutter Mane. I really wanted to try Roaring Moon a little bit more. Obviously, I think Flutter Mane is more broken in Draft League, and based on the thumbnail, you can tell which one I got. But Roaring Moon is really cool. 140 base attack, 119 speed. It has setup options. It's a really good, if not the best, Terra option currently in the game. Obviously, super good for thumbnails, and I really like that Pokemon. However, Liv, who I thought was super sold on getting Flutter Mane because of how broken it was, ultimately last second decided to get Roaring Moon, which left us with Flutter Mane, which is probably the most broken Pokemon in Draft League currently. And I'm not even exaggerating. The thumbnail is not an exaggeration. I am dead serious. This is probably by far the best Pokemon in Draft League currently. This Pokemon, if you do not know what this Pokemon does, has 55 in HP, attack, and defense, as well as 135 in special attack, Spadef, and speed. Which, by the way, if you want to know more about it, you can go ahead and check in the top right-hand corner. I did a whole competitive analysis on it. Still going to talk a little bit more about it here, though. The best part about this Pokemon, specifically in a Draft League format, is its typing. Ghost Fairy with an offensive Pokemon, not only that is super fast, but also hits super hard, is ridiculous. Think of if Spectrier had Moonblast. That Pokemon would be absolutely absurd. And that's essentially what this Flutter Mane is. We do lack an ability because we have Photosynthesis, so we can use Booster Energy, and there are definitely going to be some matchups where that comes up, and that is actually very prevalent. But most of the time, I'm going to be honest with you guys, Specs or Expert Belt or Subcom Mine leftovers are going to be probably the sets we run. There's actually a lot more sets than you would expect with this Pokemon. You're going to have Moonblast and Shadow Ball almost all the time. That dual stabs hits basically everything, and most normal types are not able to take 2 hits from this Pokemon unless they have something like a Blissey or a Chansey. We also have big setup opportunity, like I talked about earlier. Calm Mind is very prevalent, and we have a big special defense stat of 135, so this Pokemon can Calm Mind in basically anything's face as long as it's a special attacker. So with that said, this Pokemon was what I decided to build around. This is a very easy Pokemon to build around. I quite enjoy offensive ghost types. I think they're super easy to build around, and I've said that 4 times. So moving on to our second overall pick, there were a bunch of options still there that were really cool, and there were probably some better options than what I ended up getting, but I ended up getting this Pokemon because first of all, I wasn't sure Liv wasn't going to take it, and second of all, because a good fighting type always pairs really well with not only a good offensive ghost, but also a good offensive fairy, and Flutter Mane is both of those Pokemon. We are picking my favorite Pokemon in all of Paldea decks, Slither Wing. This Pokemon may not be the best fighting type that we could have picked. I think it was actually at the time of what was left on the board, but that is not important. I love this Pokemon so much. It is so good and actually a lot more versatile than meets the surface. It has First Impression, which is the main draw of this Pokemon being a bug and fighting type, and it has a monstrous attack stat in 131. However, you cannot look past its defenses. Its defenses are still very good with 85 HP, 79 defense, and a very good 105 special defense. This Pokemon can take hits and not Roost Up, but Morning Sun Up, which doesn't really matter because it has 8 PP either way now. This is a great ground resist. This is a great Pokemon to break steel types. This is a great Pokemon to break dark types. It has U-turn, it has leech life, it has priority like I mentioned earlier with First Impression. It synergizes almost perfectly with Flutter Mane, I'm not gonna lie. I think these two pieces fit together super well. The only thing that I do kind of think fits a little bit better with Flutter Mane in the Paldea decks is going to be Great Tusk, but there was no way we were getting Great Tusk this far down the wheel, and honestly I'm kind of surprised we got Slither Wing this far down the wheel. Its speed stat is a little bit lackluster with base 81, but I really like this Pokemon. You can run banded sets, you can run like Silver Powder, Life Orb, bulk up sets. There's just a lot of different options for both of these Pokemon, and synergetically, like I said, I think these pieces fit together just like a puzzle. With our next pick, we had essentially wheel. We had us, then Liv pick twice, and then us again. And Liv and I talked a little bit with this, so I knew Liv probably wasn't going to get what I wanted. So another really good thing that pairs with not only fighting types but also ghost types is going to be a good dark type, and there are not that many of those in this Paldea Dex. There were options like Hydreigon, which is something that I always pick, and honestly would have probably been the best pick here, but I decided to go with a new Pokemon, which is going to be Ting-Lu. First of all, shout out to J Bear for telling me that this Pokemon first of all existed, but second of all, look at this Pokemon's defense stats. We have 155 HP, 125 defense, and then 80 special defense. It's not the most special bulky Pokemon, but between Flutter Mane and Slither Wing, we can definitely compensate for that. But 155 HP and 125 defense, this Pokemon is a nuisance and super hard to break, and defensively, it's really nice with both Flutter Mane and Slither Wing. We are also a ground type, so we can hit those steel types that Flutter Mane does not like as well. The only downside of this Pokemon, and the reason that it probably fell to round 3 and it's more like a 14-point Pokemon, is the fact that it doesn't have recovery in any sense. It doesn't have Strength Sap, it doesn't have Recover, Morning Sun, Moonlight, nothing. It just relies on Protect leftovers, and that's what we're going to have to do a lot of the time, which it's capable of because of that monstrous defense stat. It gets access to Taunt, it gets access to Ruination, which, for those of you that do not know, is essentially Nature's Madness. It gets access to, obviously, really strong stabs and Earthquake, and I believe the other one is Throat Chop. I don't think it gets Knockoff. It has decent enough coverage, and it's just, overall, it's a really good defensive Pokemon. It gets Stealth Rock and Spikes, actually, is one of the main reasons why I picked it, so it's a hazard setter. And defensively, this piece slides in really well next to Flutter Mane. Next up, we are going to pick a classic. I decided to go 3 new Pokemon, which I think all fit together really well. I felt like it wasn't super forced. Yes, I could have picked Hydreigon, and it probably would have been a little bit better than Ting-Lu in that slot, but that's kind of debatable now with no Roost. Regardless, I decided with this next pick to go with a throwback, one of my favorite Pokemon that got made infinitely better this generation with the addition of Terra, and our first Terra captain, Toxtricity. We are Terra Normal Toxtricity, and the reason for that is we are Punk Rock Stab Boom Burst now. We are 1.8 times on our Boom Burst. This Pokemon is going to be throwing off mean 140 base power Boom Bursts that are now Stab and Punk Rock boosted, and I'm going to be honest, I don't know how you switch into this Pokemon. Now, I think for 11, with the Terra type, this Pokemon is a steal, because also, defensively, we can set up Shift Gears a lot easier now, because we are not 4 times weak to anything. Yes, fighting is a pretty common move, and people can prep around that, but most times people are going to want to click a ground move on this Pokemon or prep for a ground move. But now fighting might be less distributed than ground, I don't know. Whatever the case may be, we can get those shift gears up a little bit easier. Scarf is also a super viable option. Throat Spray is also a super viable option. I love this pick of Toxtricity, an offensive piece. It also, if we don't Terra it, can take the hits from fairy types, is a nice fairy resist, and it gets T-Spikes this generation. Toxtricity is just a lot bundled into one and a very good offensive piece. That one wasn't really picked in mind too much with Flutter Mane. Obviously, it's weak to ground, and I have a good ground resistance Slither Wing. It does fit on the team, but it's more that I wanted to use it because it looks really fun this generation. For the next pick, I noticed that Defog and Rapid Spin was super not distributed this generation. There are like maybe 20 Defoggers and 10 Rapid Spinners this entire generation. I'm pulling those numbers out of my butt, by the way. I have no idea if that's true or not. There's not that many. So I decided to go ahead and prioritize that with a little bit of extra speed with this next pick and pick Talonflame. Was this too early for a Talonflame pick? Absolutely. However, I really valued not only its speed tier, but I also valued the fact that it is a ground immunity. It gets U-turn, it gets defog, and I really think that this was not a bad pick, and it actually looks really nice on our team so far. So like I said, the main reason this thing is here is to be a defogger, and spoiler alert, unfortunately, we do not have another defogger on the team, which is something that I'm actively looking to change potentially by making some transactions. So we'll see how that goes in the future, but right now Talonflame is our only defogger, and because of that is very crucial. It's a nice speed tier in between Flutter Mane and our next highest, which actually I do not think our next highest speed tier changes from Slither Wing, so but speed tiers are really bad in Paldea decks, so having this extra little boost to our speed tiers is going to be really nice. It has access to Taunt, it has access to Roost. Obviously, I'm going to sound like a broken record talking about Pokemon you guys already know, so I'm not going to stick around on Talonflame too long. Just know that it's primarily here because it has defog potential. Our next Pokemon is going to be another oldie. Again, probably too early, but Steel types are very far and few between in this deck, as are Fairy types. Luckily, we had Flutter Mane, but our next pick is going to be Copperajah, which, honestly, I debated back and forth between this and Fortress for a while, but Fortress blows, and Copperajah is usable. Fortress, you can have an extra spinner, yes, but I feel like like a lot of times if I bring Fortress to a matchup, I'm hindering myself. So I picked Copperajah. He's another rocker. It gets a lot of coverage. It gets like Power Whip, Play Rough, Heat Crash, Heavy Slam. It gets Sheer Force. It gets access to Heavy Slam, or Heavy Metal, excuse me. So Heavy Metal helps Heavy Slam and Heat Crash. Sheer Force helps things like Iron Head. So it's a very versatile Pokemon in that sense. It's a good defensive typing. It's not a great Pokemon by any means, but it is a Steel type, and that is what was important. Now, our next Pokemon, I only picked because I guess there's two reasons why I picked it. First of all, it's round 7, and this Pokemon should not be there still. There's just no way that this Pokemon is left on the board in round 7. It just doesn't make sense. Second of all, I've been playing a lot of VGC, and this Pokemon has been the star of my VGC team, so if you have been watching my channel, you know that our next pick is Blubs the Cetitan. So a lot of people are very mixed on Cetitan. Some people say it's like a 10-point Pokemon, which I think is absolutely absurd, and then some people say it's like a 14-point Pokemon, which I think is definitely a little bit on the higher end. It probably could fall more towards like 13 points, but regardless, it being there in round 7 is just crazy. That just blows my mind, because this Pokemon paired with Abomasnow, the only Hail set in the generation, which, spoiler alert, we are going to get, is a very good pairing. But not only that, but this Pokemon is very good on its own. It has access to Sheer Force and Thick Fat. It's a very usable Ice type that I just don't see how it doesn't have any amount of value, and especially in the new Snow, it has a 1.5 boost to defense. So if you guys are on the fence about Cetitan, let me tell you guys right now, it's a great Pokemon. It has insane coverage. It has access to Earthquake. It has access to Ice Shard, Ice Spinner. It has access to, you could Terra this Pokemon, be Terra Electric, and you could hit Waters. Like, this Pokemon is overall just such a good Pokemon. It has priority outside of Snow. It has playability outside of Snow with Thick Fat and Sheer Force. Moves to take advantage of that. Unfortunately, not Icicle Crash, which would really help it with the Sheer Force sets. But with 170 HP, not the best defenses, but a very good speed for some reason in 73, and a very good attack on 113. Blubs is a very welcome member of this team. He's going to be here primarily to be a breaker on top of Flutter Mane and kind of overwhelm the opponent and make them really have to prep for a bunch of different things and spread out their checks thinly, which is going to be very difficult when we have so many offensive threats like Cetitan, Toxtricity, Flutter Mane, Slither Wing. It's going to be very difficult for them to do that. Our next pick is another Pokemon that shouldn't have been here and is a little bit undervalued in my opinion. It's only 13 points this generation, whereas Slowking is 14, and I would have much preferred Slowking, but it is Slowbro. I would have much preferred Slowking here because of its move Chilly Reception, but Slowking was far gone, and I didn't know I was going to get Cetitan way earlier in the draft, so unfortunately I didn't prioritize that. Otherwise I probably would have over Talonflame and Copperajah. I would have got it round 5 if it was still there. I actually have no idea if it was, but we got Slowbro, another Pokemon, like I said, undervalued, and I very much appreciate getting these free points on my team. Slowbro, everybody knows what it does. It just lost Teleport this generation, which definitely sucks, but I don't think it neuters it enough to where it should be taken around 8. Still a very good bulky water when there are not that many great bulky waters in this generation. Yes, there's some good ones for better value, like Dondozo, which is definitely an option, but I don't think it was there at this point in the draft. I think Slowbro synergizes super well with our team. Just keeping it alive and being a bulky physical wall when I already have so many good special walls is really nice, and you got to think about statistical things like that. It is a little bit sucky that this is a psychic type and shares the ghost weakness with Flutter Mane, when otherwise it would be a pretty good switch into the things that want to attack Flutter Mane. That's just something we're going to have to live with as we get this Slowbro, who I'm very excited to use. Our next pick is going to be our second Terra Captain, because that's just how points worked out. I'm actually kind of excited for this one. We are Henry, the Abomasnow, and we are Terra Fire, which is going to be primarily a defensive typing on this Pokemon because we actually get Earth Power already to deal with those Steel types, so not a lot of usage there, but it's primarily just to take those fire hits that otherwise would just completely obliterate us. When choosing the Terra type for Abomasnow, it was very difficult because there were a lot of very viable options. I decided ultimately on this because I felt like defensively this probably gave me the most utility compared to the weaknesses that I currently have. Totally open to changing it. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below. I have transactions available and I am very open to changing this Terra type. Leave me some reasoning why you think I should change it, what type you think I should change it to, and if you guess what type I'm going to change it to, or you give me a good enough suggestion to where I will change it, I will pin your comment, I guess. But Abomasnow, he is here specifically for setting the hail, setting the snow now, which gives him a defense boost. So actually, Henry is pretty bulky, 90 HP, 75 defense times 1.5, and then we have 85 speed depth. Pretty bulky, just a bad defensive typing, which Terra can mitigate. The only bad part about that is I might not always want to Terra him because then he will be weak to water, but we do have 60 base speed, which is meh, 92 and 92 special attack, which is meh. It's a 7-point Pokemon. It's here to set the hail, but maybe catch somebody off guard with some offensive sets because of Terra Fire. I'm going to be honest, our next two picks suck. These Pokemon get dropped week 2, and I don't even want to talk about them because they're horrible, but I got sniped on Komala, which, who gets sniped with Komala? I don't get it. So I had to settle for a bad normal type. I ultimately decided on Slacking. I don't know what Slacking does. I don't know anything about it. I just know simply that we dropped it week 2, so maybe I should talk about what we dropped it for instead, or you guys will have to wait and see. I don't know. We dropped it for Vigoroth, I'll just say it. We devolved it, and then we dropped our next pick, which I'll talk about in a second, as well as Copperajah for Bronzong. So there you go, spoiled a little bit, I guess, but I don't even think Copperajah got brought. Rest in power. But Slacking, I don't know what it does. He's here, I guess. And our last pick is Ice Cube. I thought that I was super cool and clever for taking out 1 point Ice Cube. I was like, this Pokemon is broken in the snow for 1 point. Are you kidding me? Ice Face breaks off, comes back immediately. This Pokemon is crazy. No, they nerfed him. He sucks this generation, unfortunately. Shout out to my boy Amo. I guess they saw his games where Ice Cube was just 6-0ing teams for some reason, and they decided to nerf Ice Cube and make his Ice Face not regenerate in battle for some reason. Why would you do that? Why would you make an already horrible Pokemon even worse? I don't know. I thought Pokemon was all about like power creep, like buffing Pokemon as time goes on, but here we are with an Ice Cube that is somehow worse than its debut generation. Good job, Pokemon Company. Everybody give them a round of applause. So Ice Cube and Slacking, as well as Copperajah, get dropped for Bronzong, and what did I say, Vigoroth? I don't know. Still not a good normal, but I think I value Vigoroth a little bit higher than Slacking, but it's a point lower just because of Truant is like unplayable. So whatever, we got a team. So let me know what you guys think of our team down below. It's gonna be boom, nope, boom, right there probably. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I look stupid right now. Be sure to check out all the coaches in the BBR down below, as well as some of my other videos. You can check out one right now in the top right hand corner if I haven't already used my 3 cards, which is very possible actually by this point in the video. Let me know what you guys think. Be sure to scroll down, and if you have not already hit that red subscribe button, go ahead and hit it. Absolutely free, and you get weekly notifications on when I upload these videos. And while you're down there, you might as well leave a like. It doesn't hurt anything. It actually helps things. So you better be a positive force in this world. Go ahead and leave a like. And thank you guys so much for watching. And for now, guys, this has been John Jr. signing off.